The following program contains the opinions of the host, guests, and call-in participants. These do not necessarily represent the views of this show's distributors or sponsors. This program may contain obscene, profane, or otherwise objectionable language. Viewer discretion is advised. Howdy, hello, everybody. Come to you cordless from glamorous Minneapolis. What is it? It's Wednesday night, March 4th, 2026. I'm Jim Peters. Welcome to another edition of Jim Peters and Night. This is episode number 320. If you're keeping score at home, and you should. Anything happened while I was gone? Yeah, I guess. We'll talk about that later. We got the snooze news coming up. But our guest tonight is Andy Ross. Andy, you may know him from his show on the Outdoor Channel. He did a show there for about 10, 12 years. He's the founder of American Rebel. They do gun safes, equipment, all sorts of stuff. And now he's the founder of American Rebel Beer. He's got a whole bunch of stuff going on. He's a recording artist. We're going to put him on here right now, coming to him from his home in Nashville, Tennessee. Hi, Andy. How are you?
I'm doing great. How you doing?
You are doing great. Man, you got a lot of stuff going on, you know?
I like to keep busy.
Yeah, I guess you do. So let's just start here. First of all, where are you from originally?
I'm originally from Chinook, Kansas. I moved to Kansas City when I was about 16. And then 17 years ago, I moved to Nashville.
And what did you start with first? I mean, you were a bow hunter, and you kind of turned that into a business, right?
Yeah, it all just ran like a great big record. I had a passion for hunting growing up. Doing a lot of upland hunting, pheasants, quail, doing turkey hunting, duck hunting, and that turned into a passion for archery and bow hunting. I filmed a couple of my hunts, 4 or 5 of my hunts, with a cameraman by the name of Mike Osborne that had done some work for the Jewelry Brothers. We edited up a couple of the hunts and made a DVD out of it. We sent it out to the networks, and the next thing I knew, I had a TV show on the Outdoor Channel called Maximum Archery World Tour. When I was doing the TV show, I thought, it'd be nice if the show kind of had a rock and roll edge, and we filmed some of the travel and the camaraderie and behind the scenes of making the show, and going into strange bars and almost getting into bar fights and finding laundry mats and crossing borders and getting tags, and it kind of became one of the first reality shows. But what I thought would be cool, to give it a rock and roll edge, I could play music. I knew my way around the studio. So if I had some unique proprietary music to my show for the opener, for the credits, in and out of commercials, and I wrote Gotta Go Hunting Blues, Hunt Me Down, Buck of a Lifetime, Blood Trail on a Whitetail, Support Your Local Wildlife. I made all these hunting songs, and I truly just made them for the show. But I had no idea the internet was going to explode. File sharing was going to become a thing. iTunes was going to come into existence. And the next thing I knew, I had music going everywhere, and a music career was born, and I was getting calls out of Nashville. So it was really a lot of fun and a blessing.
Yeah, Andy, what year are we talking about? When did you start that show on the Outdoor Channel? What year was that?
About 2005.
Yeah, I assume you've been playing music well before then. I mean, I have to tell you, I wanted to play one of your music videos during the interview here, but YouTube won't let me. So for whatever reason, there's a rights issue. Normally we don't have to deal with that, but for whatever reason, YouTube won't let us. But you're a pretty accomplished guitarist. I mean, your music sounds good, man. I mean, so you obviously knew your way around the studio. Did you start off wanting to be a songwriter, or?
I did. I truly made the music. I could play, and I had the ability to write, which was different. My writing ability was maybe even more advanced than my playing ability at that time. So I wrote these songs truly just for the show, to give the show an edge, and I didn't see a music career coming. But when the opportunity came, I started getting calls from major recording artists like Blake Shelton, Zach Brown, Chris Jansen, Chris Young, Lee Brice, the Davison brothers. And they were calling up saying, hey, we love your show. We'd love to go hunting. We'd love to be on your show as a guest. And by the way, your music's okay. But, if you come to Nashville, let's write one. So I got to do what I think a lot of writers would love to do and try to do. I got to write starting, 15 years ago. I got to write with artists that were better and more accomplished than me. They call that in Nashville writing up. You always want to write with somebody who's got more experience and credibility and maybe a track record of writing, hit songs.
Yeah.
And I was blessed with the right to do that because of the hunting show. And I would say that from where I was to where I went to musically by hanging around with these people and learning from these people, I had some really good growth in the last 10 years of being an artist, a player, a singer, being able to write songs that are catchy, and my ability to go out and play. I mean, I'm sitting here talking to you, and tomorrow I got rehearsal, and I'm leaving to play the NHRA race at Gainesville, Florida, and then I'm on down to play the big bike event down in Southern Florida, a big bike rally, and I'm blessed to get out and play.
Well, American Rebel, you guys have a car in NHRA, right?
Yes, we do. And that again is just a continued part of the story. I had a CD out in 2015 called Time to Fight. On that CD, I had a song called American Rebel. It got, it caught some traction, kind of went viral. Danny from Counting Cars on the History Channel heard it, ended up getting a hold of me, and they put me on Counting Cars. And he called the episode Rocked and Loaded. That further advanced the song and the popularity of the song and the streams and downloads. And then I met a friend named Corey Lambert, who's an entrepreneur, and he said, Andy, that song's a brand. American Rebel's a brand. It's America's patriotic brand. The song's the mission statement. Let's build a company around it. So that's how American Rebel started in 2015, was from the song. We built the brand, with concealed carry clothing, backpacks, coats, jackets. In 2019, we got into gun safes. 2022 rolled around, and we decided to launch expand the product line. We bought our OEM manufacturer, and about a year and a half ago, we launched America's patriotic, God-fearing, Constitution-loving, national anthem singing, stand your ground beer. And we've done that to overwhelming success. We're in 18 states. We have the largest distributors, the Coors Miller houses, the Anheuser-Busch houses, distributing the beer. So, the TV show landed into a music career, a song turned into a brand, and a brand turned into where I'm sitting today.
Now, we're going to go all over the place here because you just brought up so much stuff. All right, the beer. First of all, I have to tell you, you're all over Minnesota, but you're not here in Minneapolis, because I actually tried to find some. I couldn't. But, but Duluth, St. Cloud, all that sort of stuff, all over the place. That's fantastic. Good for you. I'm curious because, okay, so first of all, how do you actually formulate a beer? Because your beer there's no rice extracts in it, and there's no corn syrup in it, and you might have the only beer that has neither one of those things. So my question is, how do you actually sit down and do this? I mean, is it a taste test, or what do you do?
Well, first of all, I have some experience with drinking beer, so that helped. But
yeah, it does.
But it's a great question, and thank you for noticing. We are the only all-natural light beer on the market with no corn syrup, no rice extract. But I got a hold of a company called BevSource. They're a leading, I call them facilitator. They helped us get with award-winning formulators, and we went through about over a year sample process. We kind of had some marks we wanted to hit. We wanted to be all natural. We wanted to be something that people would take to the lake, they'd enjoy mowing the yard, the picnics and the ball games, and that kind of light beer. We had a calorie profile, but the all natural part was important. BevSource put us with the formulators, the master brewers. They helped us, understand taxation, legal, and getting licensed in states and distribution. And they really helped us go through the learning curve of what it meant to be in the beer business, and I assume probably the alcohol business in general. But I got to give them a lot of credit for stepping in and and helping us and partnering up with us.
Yeah, the other thing is rice extract isn't necessarily a bad thing. I mean, Budweiser is basically based on it. So the fact that you decided to pull it out, I find that, I mean, does something substitute for that, or how does that work?
Rice extract and corn syrup is a cheap way to make alcohol.
Yeah.
And what that does, it doesn't have a lot of flavor. We use 2-row barley to make our alcohol. We don't use rice extract or corn syrup. So what these other light beers do, when they have a light beer that doesn't have much flavor, they overcarbonate it to compensate for flavor, because that activity of that carbonation makes you feel flavor or taste flavor because it's activity as you're drinking it. But we always thought, well, isn't the purpose of a light beer to not feel all full and feel like, you just drank a heavy beer? Carbonation is one of the things that make that feel that way. So if we were able to make an all natural light beer. We don't have to overcarbonate the beer because we don't have to try to find an artificial way to fake taste. So we have a great tasting beer. It meets it's 110 calories, meets the light beer calorie profile, but it actually tastes like a beer.
That's fantastic. I'm looking, I go up north. Well, we here in Minnesota call it up north regularly. I have family up there. So yeah. I'm looking forward to finding some and drinking it. I'm sorry I couldn't taste it before we started today. But I mean, I just was reading about how you were doing this, and I thought, well, this is fascinating. Because the thing is, I mean, you guys had to go out of your way to pull that crap out, so that's why.
Yeah, the thing was, we knew the American Rebel brand, that people are attracted to it. They're attracted to our other products. We always draw a crowd where we go. The music draws a crowd. And we knew our packaging looked great and that people would try the beer. They would gravitate to the beer because of the message. America's patriotic, God-fearing, Constitution-loving, national anthem singing, stand your ground beer. And we knew that would get the attention. But if they didn't like what was in the can, if we couldn't outdo everybody else in the liquid, they were only going to try it. We didn't want to be the gimmick beer. We didn't want to be the beer that, everybody bought one or two and maybe took the can down and set it in their man cave because the can was cool, but that they didn't, we want to be their beer for the next 10 years. And so we went out of our way to really perform on the liquid.
Good for you, man. God bless you. And then the other thing is too, and I've been involved a little bit because I'm a dork. I know how hard this is. You guys went public. That's a huge pain in the ass. Was it worth the trouble?
It is, because when you're in a business like the beer business, it's a small margin business. It's based on volume, and you have to go into a market like Minnesota. We're sponsoring bike nights, and we're sponsoring pool tournaments, and we're getting involved in and during hunting season. Obviously, with my background, we want to be involved in hunting season and deer hunting and all forms of hunting and fishing, and that takes money to develop a market. You have to invest in Minnesota before you'll see the return come out of Minnesota, and it could be 2-3 years down the road. Now imagine doing that in 18 states, and rolling out things like grocery store chains and stuff. There's display costs, there's tastings, you need boots on the ground. There's all kinds of marketing and signage and banners and the NHRA races. So you have to have access to capital to try to be in this business. If you got a small craft beer that you're making in your bathtub and selling it to 6 locations, maybe not. But if you're trying to truly compete in the light beer market, and I assure you that's what we're doing, you need access to capital.
Yeah, but I can make an argument that you don't necessarily have to go public to do that. So
you certainly could. It's worked out well for us. It was in our DNA to do it. Corey Lambert, the gentleman who I said who had recognized along with me that this needed to be a brand, America's patriotic brand. He had put together a public company and bought Smith & Wesson back and brought it back to a U.S. company, turned that company around, and their sales are just, he's just done an amazing job with that. So it was in his DNA to say, if we need to get funding, this is how I know how to do it. And I have some background there as well. And it made sense for us. But you're right. It's a whole job just running the public company. And thank you, Corey, thankful for me that Corey thrives on that. And I always say Corey runs the business or running the business. And, I'm real fortunate to have him.
You're lucky you ran into somebody like that, because those guys are rare who have a talent to do that. I mean, I've been involved in business enough to know it's a very, very difficult process. So
it's quarterly audits and Ks,
right.
Filings and
frankly, and for a guy like you, probably kind of boring too. I mean, it's not very creative. It isn't. So
there's a lot of work that goes on behind the scenes and legal and accounting and audits and stuff like that. And thankfully, Corey is he's a master at it and loves it. And he lets me get out here and promote the company, promote the brand, play my music, and get creative with product design and marketing. And we really are a great fit. We have a lot of members on our team that are a great fit. But
I'm bouncing around again too, and I don't know where this comes into your personal timeline, but in 2004, you founded a company called Digital Ally, right?
I did.
And that involved, well, you go ahead, tell us what it involves.
So that is something, again, that really came out of bow hunting. I had the idea when digital cameras came out. A digital camera when they first came out, they had really small SD cards and they could take 300 pictures.
Right.
Well, I had this idea that what video is 30 pictures taken in 1 second. That's video.
Right.
So if this camera would do 300 pictures, it would shoot 10 seconds of video. So I made this camera to go on my bow. I've got a cameraman, with me on these hunts, but I made this camera to go on my bow. So when I shot the bow, it had an accelerometer in it, which would start recording. And even though it would only record for 10 seconds, it would record the flight and strike of the arrow, because it didn't take the arrow 10 seconds to get to its target.
I'd have to ask you, Andy, did you hack the camera yourself to do it?
Did I what?
Did you hack the camera yourself to actually do that?
No, I had the idea, and I actually filed the patent. I'm on the original patent. We got an engineer to do it.
That's a fantastic idea, because you only, if you're shooting, I'm not a bow hunter. I'm not an archery person, but it seems to me you only need 10 seconds of video, right?
You do, but here's the problem. The vibration from the bow is so violent, even though you may not feel it, that we couldn't get the video to clear up fast enough. And I worked with Sims Vibration Laboratories to help me with the mount and try to do it. And it never really became a good product. But then I had the idea, well, if I put this in a flashlight, this circuit, and the camera's in the middle and the LED lights go around the camera in the center, then it would be a digital video flashlight. By this time, we had 6 gig, 8 gig, 10 gig, 12 gig cards, and we were getting 30 minutes of video. So now I made something that a police officer or fire inspector, police officer could use it on a domestic violence charge, going into a house, to investigate a crime scene, DUI stops, searching the trunk of a vehicle. And so the circuit that I made for the bow actually ended up in a flashlight and ended up being sold to police departments. And that's how I started that company. But I was still passionate in doing bow hunting. And truth be told, some of the money I made off of that project is what helped me fund my show and get going.
That's pretty cool. So were you already doing the show in 2004? You weren't, were you?
No, I wasn't. I didn't have the show yet, but I was out filming and I was making this bow camera to try to get an angle of my hunt that the other shows didn't have. But this is a classic example of of taking, a lemon and making lemonade.
Yeah, it's just absolutely fascinating. Are you still involved with that company?
No, and I haven't been for many years.
You sold it, or you just passive investor?
Well, it also went public, and I just sold out of my stock and invested in my show and what we've, my new career path, if you will.
Yeah. So do people compare you to Ted Nugent a lot? You're kind of on the same trajectory, and your music kind of sounds similar. I'm going to lump it in, but if you don't mind.
Yeah, we kind of do this country patriotic rock and roll that's a little Southern rock, little country. the thing about Ted, I've bow hunted the world with Ted. And if someone was to compare me, there's only one Ted Nugent.
Yeah.
And you can't copy it. You can't be it. Even his music has its own sound that you hear it, and you hear him do a guitar riff, you instantly know it's him.
Yeah.
And I give it credit. Now, I can't speak for Ted, but I give it credit because he's just got so much of that Motown thing in him coming out of Detroit. Ted focuses on the groove as much as he does the lead, and he plays the groove that makes you want to dance. He's groovier than any other player I know. But obviously he can play leads and can write really tasteful leads that go with his great grooves. But there's only one, so I can't compare myself to him. But hopefully we're doing something out here ourselves too with my style and brand of music that others find to be unique and keep me as an individual as well.
Well, I'm a musician myself, and I wouldn't directly compare you to Ted, but I have to say your songs are very well crafted.
Thank you.
Quite impressed, and also the studio work's quite good too. They're solid.
Thank you very much. I met when I came out here and I started writing with some people. I was writing with the Davison brothers, and we wrote a song. And they said, "Hey, why don't you let our producer take you in the studio to record it?" His name is Doug Grau. He put together all the Little Texas, worked with Little Texas and all the big Little Texas hits. God Bless Texas, Amy's Back in Austin, Kick a Little, It Might Have Been. He worked and did records on Travis Tritt. He did the Blue Collar Comedy Tour with Foxworthy and Larry the Cable Guy. And he took me in. He just said, "Andy, with your audience, why don't we go ahead and make a record?" And Doug and I are making our 4th record as we speak. I was in the studio this morning. I'll be back in the studio tomorrow. And so I've had the opportunity to work with #1 hit-making, award-winning producer. And the band I mentioned, Little Texas, poor Hal, who was a writer on all those hits, Doug put me with him, and I've got to give him a lot of credit for helping me craft my songs and find my sound. So I really, and Porter will tell you, he's like, "You got to come in here with the song. I'm just helping you make the best Andy Ross music I can. We're not making Little Texas records, or we're not making, these style of records." And he's really helped me find my sound. So I've got a lot of people to give credit to and be thankful for that crossed my path.
Well, Jesus Christ, man, what's an average day like for you? You got all this stuff going on, and you obviously can't do these 6 things simultaneously. So is every day completely different, or do you wake up and you're drunk, or I don't know.
I was a little this morning, to be honest with you. But, I've got a couple things going for me. One, whether I'm doing the music, talking to you, out hunting, working the business, I could be at the biggest investor conference in New York. Wherever I'm at, everybody just lets me be me. I don't dress any different when I'm in front of the boardroom or in front of 200 investors. The same story, the same vibe. I don't have to turn into a different person to play these different roles and wear different hats. And that's #1. #2, as I mentioned, I've got Corey Lambert that's running the business on that side, and he sees value in having me out there. He sees value of having me on this podcast today. This is the type of stuff the business wants me doing, and everything feeds everything. I'm going to go play the NHRA race in Gainesville this weekend, and they're selling our beer at the track. Our car's running, so I'm going to bring the party, play the music to a bunch of people in the crowd. They're going to be holding up Rebel Light beers, which obviously is beneficial to the company. So I think people will just let me be in my role, and it's a lot to do, but it's a lot of fun, and I really enjoy the fact that everything benefits and affects everything. I'm having a great time on this podcast today. We're getting some information out on our company, but I'm also getting to talk about music. So it all don't seem as different to me as you might think it would.
That's good. And I have to say, I've never been at one of your performances, but watching the videos online, you're obviously bringing the party. I got to admit, I think of all the talents you have, that might be your single biggest one. I've seen these people. These people seem very happy.
Well, it's funny you said that, and I I'm very truthful about this stuff. I think you're right. Bringing the party and the excitement and the energy and making a good time out of a night is probably my strong suit, because a lot of people like me, you can't just get there on talent. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I would not win The Voice. You
Yeah.
know, I don't even know if they would turn their chair around. I don't even know if I'd, I really don't. I know I sing Andy Ross music better than anybody else on the planet, but I wouldn't win The Voice.
But I think,
So
Andy, I think you have to be precise here, though. Bringing the party is a talent. It's just it's a relatively unusual talent. It may not be singing or playing, but it's still very much a talent. It is.
So everybody, everybody that I think that's successful in music, for the most part, the people I know, they have a thing about them. Elvis had a thing for sure, right?
Yeah. Right.
Nugent's got his thing, and I mean, the artists here in town, the Tim McGraw's and the Garth Brookses, and people have a thing about them that makes them just a little bit different. I know there's so much talent in this town. It's crazy how much talent's in this town, but you could put 80% of them in the same box.
Yeah.
And that doesn't always get you where you want to go. I tell everybody all the time, I'm not the best bow hunter in the world. I'm not the best musician in the world. I'm not the best businessman in the world, but I do think I'm the only one that has this story. And that makes it unique and makes it a thing.
Yeah. God, good for you, man. I'm going to put your website on the screen here. So I was trying to look at something. You have website. This is andyross.com, and you also have americanrebelbeer.com. That wasn't quite as visually interesting, so I decided on this one, if you don't mind my saying so. But
this has got a little of everything on it. It's got
the
beer, the car, it's got some guitars, and that hat that's right up there.
That's what I thought.
Right there.
Yeah. And before we went on the air, you were telling me you had about 60 guitars, but like most people in your position, you play about 6 of them, right? Regularly.
Play about 6 of them, and 80% of the time I'm playing about 2 of them. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So what in the immediate future? What do you got going on? You're going to the NHRA thing, and you got what else going? What else you got going?
Yeah, I'll play about 12 to 16 races this year. I play a lot of bike rallies, which I'm also doing this coming weekend. Freedom festivals, outdoor events. We do a lot of that kind of thing. I'm playing, really excited. I'm playing a bunch of the 250th birthday celebrations for our country this year. I'm doing one up at Gettysburg. I'm playing with Big and Rich on 9/11 at Black Oak Amphitheater. Doing some stuff with Aaron Lewis and Bradley Gilbert, doing some opening dates with them coming up. So it's going to be a busy summer. And, I'm also doing a lot of beer launch parties. When we open up a state and a distributor wants to, pick in a venue and bring in key accounts and all their employees and stuff, we'll go in and play a beer launch party. I'm coming to Minnesota at some point in time this summer. I know that.
We have to keep in touch, because if you come, I'll try it, unless you're out, in Halleck or something, but 5 miles from the Canadian border. I'll try to come and see you.
We'll just swing the bus by and pick you up. If we're too far north, you just jump on.
Yeah, that's fine. That'd be good. Hey, that's been a real pleasure talking to you.
Thank you.
I've enjoyed this. Also, I have one more question too. So, as far as like brand extension, you got any other products you're thinking on putting out? Anything you could tell us?
Again, being a public company, I can only say what's out there in the filings. So I got to keep a couple of things just kind of close to the vest. But
right.
I will tell you that we did start off. We are America's patriotic brand. I told everybody I want to see American Rebel beer, American Rebel grills, American Rebel charcoal, American Rebel tools, American Rebel motor oil. I want Susie to go up to Mom and say, "What's Dad want for Father's Day?" And she says, "Honey, anything with American Rebel on it. Pool cues, wheelbarrows." But we've always said we would do a lot of it through licensing too. I'm not really going to set up and make pool cues, but if a pool cue company wanted to do an American Rebel pool cue and be a part of our patriotic family and our marketing, we would do a little licensing deal out with the brand. So we look forward to hopefully doing some of that in the future as well.
I'm gonna just play, uncle here and give you some advice. But you were talking about the bike rallies. You guys should do motorcycles. It'd be a great
Hey,
brand for a motorcycle. It really would. I mean, that's a really complex thing, and you're right. You probably have to license that, so you want to make sure
yeah,
it's the right quality and all that sort of stuff. But no, it's like that. It'd be a
I would love it.
fantastic brand for motorcycle. It would. Andy,
Uh,
thank you for joining us today. I really
You
appreciate it.
bet. I
You take
appreciate it,
care.
man. God bless. Thank you.
We'll talk to you again. All right. Take care.
Perfect.
Welcome back, everybody. Our thanks to Andy Ross there. There's a fascinating gentleman, huh? I mean, all that stuff he's done. It's unbelievable. And one thing leads to another. It's like, just what can I say? Keep on working, man. You know, that's all I got. So tomorrow night we have a really fascinating guest coming on tomorrow night. Do you remember Robert Bjork or Robert Bork? Excuse me. He was a guy who almost became a Supreme Court justice, I think in 87 or something like that. He was nominated by George Bush Sr., if I'm correct. And his his confirmation hearing was so contentious, he was not elected by the Senate to be on the Supreme Court. It was when Kavanaugh had his hearings, a few years ago, that everyone was basically pointing back to Bork's hearings. And there's a verb now called to be borked, and that is to basically get your nomination for whatever it is in federal office so screwed up that people abandon it. That's unfortunately what happened to him. Anyway, he had a son. That's Robert Bork Jr. And Robert Bork Jr. has written a book called The New Paradox, Antitrust and the Threat of Conservative Socialism. And he's going to be our guest tomorrow night. And this is his book actually plays into something I'm going to be talking about in a few minutes here. And we call this the Snooze News for March 4th. And like I said at the top of the show, did I miss anything this week? So we've been off. We've been off since last Thursday. Now, good news here is that this stops as of now. Next week we're going to have a full week of shows, and we should in the conceivable future too. But I'm of course the thing that happened is this war, if you want to call it that, military action in Iran happened over the weekend, and the thing that surprises me. So there's been polls done in the last few days. To my amazement, the one that was done, I think on Sunday or Monday, only 30% of the people in the United States were for this action. The other 70% were against it. Of course, basically all Democrats are against it. What was really amazing is that a bunch of conservatives, a bunch of Republicans were against it too. Here's my take on this. There's an alternate universe. There's a parallel universe where the Iranians drop a bomb on Midtown Manhattan, a nuclear bomb. That would have happened. As a matter of fact, supposedly one of the things that set the Trump administration off here is about actually confirming to do this, although they've been planning it for months, which is one of the reasons these things are going so well. They planned it for months, even though they weren't ready to pull the trigger. Is that the Iranians reminded them that they had enough nuclear material, uranium, to make 11 nuclear bombs, and they thought, okay, game's over. We're not going to wait for that. Because the thing is, and I've been saying this, and people don't believe it, but it's really true. These people, when Trump says they're lunatics, he's not kidding. The entire existence of that country and of that party was to eliminate Israel and the United States off the world map. That's the entire goal. That was the entire goal their entire time, the last 47 years since they took power. What was it, in 78? They have that's the only thing that's been driving them. And so you don't think if they had a nuclear bomb, they wouldn't use it? Well, all I can say is you're naive. That's all I would say. First of all, they use it on Israel for sure. There's no doubt about that. But I think they use it on the United States too. They were basically ramping up to have ballistic missiles that would hit the American mainland. They didn't quite have them yet. Although this is pointed out, this got gets lost in all the bullshit news that the supposed news organizations are putting out, that the Iranians, so the UK refused to let us use, and I'm not quite clear on this. Was it their own airport bases or ours to enter Iranian airspace? They wouldn't let our jets use them, and I think it's theirs. But I know that I know for sure. Cyprus, which is an island right off the coast of Iran, no, I'm sorry, off the course of Greece. What am I thinking? It's about 1,100 miles away from Iran, right? Okay, there's a British military base, flight base there. In other words, runways, and the Iranians bombed it. They have a ballistic missile that could reach 1,100 miles. And the amazing thing is that the British already told the Americans that we couldn't use it, and the Iranians bombed it anyway. Now, it appeared to me at first that the Iranians were bombing everybody in the region willy-nilly, and a lot of people thought that was because they completely lost control of the aiming procedures of their ballistic missiles, of their their arsenal. But apparently that's not completely true. One thing that is, I guess, completely true is that they've lost all command and control. In other words, uh, their relative military bases around their country have lost communication with each other. So they're basically all isolated. So they're just launching shit. But they did hit the British airbase on Cyprus from 1,100 miles away. So they could do that. And that's way farther than Israel is, you know? So I don't understand how anybody could be against this. I just don't. And I'm not the only person to say this. It appears that the Democrats are so concerned about giving Donald Trump a win that they would rather screw this up. I mean, there's Jeffrey's already floating a resolution in Congress to immediately pull Donald Trump's ability to wage any warfare. Is not just whether the War Powers Act per se, but basically to stop this. It would stop this entire military action dead in its tracks, and of course we would lose for that reason alone. And they don't care. They don't seem to care. I can't imagine. I guess I can imagine after all these years. Trump derangement syndrome is loud and proud. That's all there is to it. There's people they would rather see the U.S. fail than Donald Trump win at anything. It's really, I just find this just disgusting. Now, the polls that came out today, this is Wednesday morning, the appears that the public sentiment has shifted fairly dramatically. It was 30, 70, 34, or 70 against on Monday, and now it's 50-50. And that happened in just a matter of 2 days. So I just don't understand how anybody could be against this. I don't. I mean, nobody likes to do this stuff, and people are saying, well, you started another forever war. But like Pete Hegseth said, and this is really important, it's really true. No, we're ending a war that's been going on for 47 years. And that's true. They are. I mean, the Iranians have already killed through various military actions thousands of Americans in the last 47 years. Thousands. In that one thing in Beirut in 1983 alone, they killed 214 American soldiers in one single action. So I just don't understand. It's like I'm starting to think I'm just an old relic of another era, and no one is, and there's no common sense on anything. Absolutely anything. The other amazing thing that's happened here is that a lot of the countries in this region that started out against this action has now come 180 and have decided to support it, mostly because the Iranians, like fucking idiots, bombed them. So the Iranians sent missiles into Dubai that has nothing to do with this at all, nothing, just apparently to piss people off, or they lost control of them or something. But pretty much all of the countries in this region now that have been bombed that were friendly to Iran, now all of them have turned. So Iran has no friends. It's like, and I find the precision of our military absolutely astonishing. I do. First of all, in the very first strike, they took out the top 48 leaders in Iran. And people have talked about this, the sheer arrogance of the Iranian military to think they could all meet and have lunch in one place and nothing bad would happen. It's just like, and then of course that happened again 2 days later. So their supposed assembly of experts, this is the people, they basically have a conclave, like you choose the Pope, except they instead of cardinals, they have their clerics assembly of experts, which is a bunch of clerics who get together and they choose the supreme leader. The supreme leader is a theocrat. It's a religious position. The president and prime minister, they are political positions, but the supreme leader is the supreme leader. Basically, he runs the country. And so they got together to elect another one, and supposedly they were bombed again. Now this is getting a little murky here. The confirmation on this is kind of starting to fall apart, but but still, I mean, they still bombed the place they met. That's for sure. So I don't understand. It's like I just think these people are morons. Really? You're doing this? So whatever. But the problem is that doesn't mean we're going to win. It doesn't. It looks likely, I'd say. I mean, we really decimated the entire military of this country in just a few days. But if they can still put together one stupid nuclear bomb in some bunker somewhere, they have a chance of inflicting some serious damage. And that's the fear here. There's reports going on that we are supposedly concerned about running out of a stockpile of certain weapons. I don't buy that. I don't. First of all, we're America. We run out, we make more. That's all there's to it. I mean, it may not be what it could be, what it was in World War II. Jonathan Lockwood comes on the show. We've talked about this before, about the fact that in World War II, Ford turned their automobile plants into aircraft manufacturing facilities, and they were literally making 60 airplanes a day. I don't know if we can do that now, but we can certainly turn out enough stupid drones. I'm not too concerned about this. I'm really not. I think that's maybe fake news, frankly. All right, I'm moving on here. So, we've talked about this too, and you've probably heard about this. There's this thing going through the California Assembly where they want to tax, they call it a tax, it's confiscation. And that's not me being political here. It's literally confiscation. They want to confiscate 5% of the wealth of every person living in California who makes has assets of over $1 billion. That's the thing here. This is not based on income. This is based on stuff you already have. So this would apply to about 180 people. There's 25 million people that live in the state of California. This would apply to 180 individuals that each have more than $1 billion in assets. That is, if they stick around. They're already moving out just because of the threat of this. I mean, Steven Spielberg moved out. Jeff Bezos has moved out. Mark Zuckerberg has moved out. These people, they're already moving out. And this hasn't even been decided for certain. Now, we've talked about this before. The reason I'm bringing this up today is because now Bernie Sanders and Ro Khanna are going to put a thing through Congress, through the Senate, to do the same thing on a national level. There's about 1,000 billionaires that live in the United States. I need to point this out. There's 340 million people that live in the United States, 340 million, and there's 1,000 billionaires. Got that? Okay. So they think they want to take 5% of all, if they say it's a one-time thing, we're going to only do this once. We're going to take 5% of your assets. And then of course the thing they have to calculate what the assets are. Most people, and Trump has alluded to this, he actually doesn't know how much money he has. Most of these people, because the thing is, it's not actually money. It's not cash. You have assets that are worth a certain amount of money. Like, for example, Bezos probably has the majority of his assets tied up in Amazon stock. Now, he can sell that. In some cases, you could sell it relatively easy. In some, you can't. And in some cases, you would have to liquidate businesses just to come up with the money. I mean, it's terrible. This is terrible. And I'm not that rich at all. I'm not the least bit rich, whether you want to believe that or not. It's true. But I still find this morally wrong, because a tax is on income. This is not income. This is like, you've made this money. Okay, so yeah, these people have plenty of money. They do. But the other thing is what the Democrats want to do with this money. They don't want to pay off the debt. They don't want to do that. We're $40 trillion in debt. They want to earmark the money for all sorts of social programs. One is they want to give everybody in America who makes under $150,000 a year $3,000. They want to do that. There's all sorts of stuff that and the thing is, we're drowning in debt already. I've heard other uh, 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 pundits say this too. I would maybe go along with this if you were going to take all that money and pay the debt down. They figure it'd be about $4.5 trillion you'd come up with. Okay, the debt's $40 trillion. It would pay down about 10% of it. But there's also just the fact of the matter, and not only that, it's just you have to understand this. And this is where I was talking about Robert Bjork coming on tomorrow. We're going to talk to him about this, because I've said this before. Capitalism is a highly flawed system, but it's the least flawed of all the rest of them. It's still the least flawed. It's the only one that actually creates money, or people say creates wealth, and it does create wealth, but I'm just saying it creates money. It's the only one that's self-sustaining. Every single other system, socialism, communism, this is not an exaggeration, and it's not a joke. People always throw this out kind of as a funny, but Margaret Thatcher did say this. She said, sooner or later, you run out of other people's money. But the thing is, you actually do. That's the thing. It's not bullshit. You actually do run out of money, because the system will not create enough money to sustain itself. That's the reason the Soviet Union folded. That's the reason Cuba's on the brink of collapse. And also, and this hardly ever comes up in any of the conversation about Iran, the Iran economy is completely kaput. Totally. Not because of the war. Matter of fact, that's one of the reasons they were so weak. They were so weak, and we decided to go in. For all basic purposes, the money, the real, the unit of currency in Iran is worthless. So for that reason, basically, people don't have jobs, which is the reason they end up in the street. Why thousands of people are protesting. They literally don't have anything else to do. Now, they can go to their job, but the money they'd be paid is worth nothing. You can't even buy a loaf of bread. So what's the point? And we've proved this over and over again. If this was 1920 or 1917, I could understand people wanting to give it a shot. We've had over 120 years of this, and it's never worked once, not one single time. And these people want to do the same thing. So they want to confiscate all this money. They want to blow it. Well, then what happens after that? What do you do? You do it again? Is that the deal? And we've already been doing enough of this. And this is the point where, I can talk about the Democratic Socialists, but no, when it comes to the debt, the Republicans are equally guilty. We've ran up $40 trillion in debt. We are spending money like mad, stupid people. And it has to stop. It has to stop. No one wants it to stop, because people have noticed if you give people free stuff, they have a tendency to vote for you. That's the reason this keeps going on and on and on. I'm beyond myself. I just find that, and not to mention the fact it's intrinsically unfair. So I'll throw this out. If instead of confiscating 5% of the assets of the top 1,000 richest people in America, let's do it for everybody. We'll take 5% of what you own, regardless of, yeah, if you, let's say, if you're living in a shack and you don't have a car, or whatever, or sleeping on somebody's, and you're making $8,000 a year and not getting by, we're going to take 10% of your money, or 5%, excuse me. Let's do everybody. And let's see how that goes over. And then they'll say, well, that's not redistribution of wealth. No, it isn't. That is not redistribution of wealth. It just proves how unfair and how stupid the idea is. And no, the thing is, people say, well, I mean, I hear this all the time from my liberal friends. Elon Musk doesn't deserve that money. Well, here's the deal. Elon Musk his company launched 199 orbital space flights last year in 2025. That's the actual number. Their goal was 200. They came one short. 199, and our stupid government can't even get a rocket off to orbit the moon. And I think the last try was the 11th try, and it failed again. And then rolled back Armistice back into the vehicle assembly building and fixed the damn plumbing. It's really terrible. They can't. Now I understand the onus on safety, because the Challenger disaster that killed those 7 astronauts was completely avoidable, and everybody knew it. Everybody who worked at Raytheon, who designed those rocket booster engines, everyone knew the thing was going to blow up. It was an open secret, because they say you can't run those engines under 40 degrees Fahrenheit, and it was 32 that day when they launched it, and everyone knew it was going to fail. And I know they're trying to avoid that from that happening again. And I guess that's a good thing. But seriously, how many times tries do you need? It was either the 9th or 11th. I can't even remember, but it's failed at least 9 times. Now they've put this, I actually wrote it on here. The next launch window is the first week of April. It's April 1st or April 3rd to 6th. Now, and April 30th. Now, the way this works is because you have to wait until certain orbital alignments occur for them to do this, because the idea is they're going to launch off Cape Canaveral, go into orbit around the Earth, and then launch out of orbit out of Earth and go around the moon, come back. They do not have a lunar lander attached. They, believe it or not, they want to land on the moon next year, and they haven't even designed the lunar lander yet. They don't even know what it's going to look like. This is turning to be, and okay, so our government with billions and trillions of dollars can't even do that. And SpaceX launched 199 orbital flights last year, and they're actually now talking about putting up millions of satellites. These satellites are no bigger than like a Rubik's Cube or a softball. They're very small. But they put them in orbit, and because they're so small, they don't need any power. You don't need to adjust the orbit at all. Sooner or later, they fall out of orbit, but they're so small, it takes forever. So, and that's what the Starlink thing is, where they can basically broadcast internet down to the ground. So, it's like, okay, so if you can do that, maybe you should have $400 billion in the bank. And now, granted, yes, he's not the only person doing it, but he does head the whole thing, and his brain is driving it. So, and yes, and that is one of the faults of capitalism. I agree, and that is, once you have a certain amount of money, it becomes extremely easy to make more. That's one of the faults of it. The less money you have, the harder it is to make money. And I agree. That's not fair. It's that's intrinsically unfair. But when you look at all the other systems, it still works. That's the thing. No other system works. And this is, yeah, that's what gets back to my thing. We're going to talk to Bork about this tomorrow. Capitalism is a very unfair system. It's the least unfair of all of them, because the rest of them are worse. All righty. Okay, this is really fascinating story, and I'm guessing you haven't heard this, but a social media influencer in, I think she's in Idaho, if I'm right, or Washington, has been sued and awarded $10 million because here's the way this went down. So you know the Brian Kohlberger murders. This guy murdered 4 people in their dorm house. And I think I always get this confused. I think the kids lived in Idaho, but they're going to the University of Washington, if I'm right. It's right on the border, and so he was been convicted now of this. He's spending life in prison for killing these 4 people. So this woman, she's a social media tarot card reader named Ashley Gilliard. She accused a professor at the University of Idaho named Rebecca Schofield of having something to do with this murder because she said the tarot cards told her this. Professor Schofield didn't even know these kids. She had never had met them. She had no dealings with them. Nothing. She completely, and apparently that was verified that that she did not know these people. And basically, by Gilliard getting on the intertube and saying this, she ruined this woman's life. It's like because apparently, for some reason, there's millions of people that follow idiots on the internet. And that's my problem. I'm not stupid, so apparently no one follows me. So there you go. Do I look bitter? Yeah, because this is getting ridiculous. Everyone's figured out the formula. It's very simple. The more outrageous you are online, the more attention you get, and therefore the more money. So I mean, it's really terrible. Even Tucker Carlson has fallen into this now. I was reading Bill O'Reilly was saying, he said, I don't even know Tucker Carlson anymore. Well, the problem is, and Bill doesn't have to deal with this, is that Tucker's on his own now. He's in the social media wilderness, and he has figured out, especially because he's used to making enormous amounts of money, that for him to make money online, he has to say a certain number of outrageous things. And Megyn Kelly apparently is in the same boat. And then Candace Owens, she's driving this boat. That's all she does. And she is making boatloads of money. I mean, it's unbelievable. She has posts that she puts out that are seen by 20 to 30 million people. Of course, she's been accusing Francois Macron and France about the fact that his wife is a man. All sort of about this thing about Erica Kirk TP USA, Turning Point, about the fact that people in the organization actually killed Charlie Kirk. I mean, it's just disgusting crap. It's complete bullshit, but yet she's making a lot of money because people tune in. So this apparently is what this Ashley Gilliard woman was doing, and it was working because her tarot card readings, whatever the fuck that is, basically ruined Miss Schofield's life. So Schofield sued her, and she had no trouble winning. First of all, the trial was judge only, but the judge said that she definitely defamed Schofield, and then they procured a jury to come up with the award, and the jury took 2 hours, $10 million. It was a no brainer, and Miss Gilliard in both trials represented herself, and she never actually came up with a plausible reason why she did this. She never said. And Gilliard's broke, and I'm not the only person who's figured this out. Professor Schofield's probably never going to see her money. She probably won't. But Gilliard's paychecks, wherever she's working, are going to be garnished for the rest of her life. That's all, and so really, so the problem is here you have a young woman who's basically broke, who thought she could make some money doing this, but it never occurred to her that she's defaming somebody, or that anybody would ever take action, or all she sees is Candace Owen getting away with this crap. But Candace Owen, you have to understand, was already wealthy extremely rich before she even got online, and before she became a podcaster. So, and Tucker Carlson, same thing. I mean, Tucker Carlson made oodles of money working for Fox News. So, I mean, these people they can afford the legal ramifications of doing this stuff. Miss Gilliard, it never occurred to her she couldn't, and now she's screwed. And why? And not only that, it's like, why are you doing this? Were you doing this for cash? It's dishonest money. That's all there is to it. Stop. Try that. Try stopping. Oh, well, then if you stop, you have to work at Burger King. I understand. All right. Not as glamorous and probably not as much money, but at least you're not screwing people. And now you're screwed. I don't know. All right, so I got to show you this, and I put this in the description of the show today. So on February 22nd, so what was that, about a week ago? Yeah, about a week ago. The Mars Curiosity rover, which, do I have to point this out, is on Mars. It's in the Gale crater, and it's taking pictures because that's what it does. It has a camera. It's always taking. I have no idea how many pictures. It probably takes a couple hundred pictures a day. I have no idea how many. But anyway, I got to put this on the screen. So it takes this picture, and you can't see this, but you see that little dot. You can't even see my cursor, but the circle there, that little dot. Well, what is that? And here's the close up of it, which is not particularly. It's a fucking flying saucer on Mars. What the hell? It's like, Jesus Christ. And people said, oh, no. It's an artifact of the photographer. No, it's not. I know how this shit works. That's no photographic artifact. That's a flying saucer. It's like, and here, I've always said this, 95% of all this quote unquote evidence is bullshit. And that's true. This isn't. That is not a photographic artifact. That is not a lens flare. No, that's something flying in the air on Mars. So, yeah, so there you go, folks. If you think that, I don't know, I just find this hilarious. Really? We have to go to Mars to get confirmation of this? We do, but apparently we do. And then there it is. It's flying around. I have no idea. There's been so many rumors, and they're just like, I don't believe any of this shit, but still, people are saying that we have had bases on Mars for years. I'm still convinced, I have to tell you, that I think, this whole thing with the Artemis thing failing to go to the moon. The last time we went to the moon was, I think, it was 1972, was it? Apollo 17. I personally am convinced, complete speculation, my opinion, that the military has been going there ever since. I do not think that we stopped going to the moon. It's just they were all secret flights. That's what I think. The other thing is, and this has become almost an open secret now. This is not really conspiracy bullshit. There are structures on the moon, and people have seen them, and you can see them with telescopes. It's like, and it's basically an open secret now. So you can't see the backside of the moon from the Earth, which is I have to point out, the only single body, not just in our solar system, that's been observed anywhere in space that keeps one side of its planet away from the thing it's orbiting. It's the only one. And it's exactly perfect. It turns out and there's no creep, nothing. We never see the backside of the moon from Earth ever. But people have been the orbiters that we've sent to photograph the area and stuff. There's supposedly all sorts of structures on the backside of the moon. I say supposedly, but still, based on what's on the front side of the moon, I totally believe this. Now, I don't know if there are ours or others. I have no idea. The Mars thing I find much more incredible. I don't think that's true, but I mean, there's people say that we've been going there. And no, they don't tell anybody. I don't believe it because of the technology involved. Even Musk has been saying he thinks that he can beat the U.S. government to Mars, and I think there's a good possibility he could. But even he's saying for the astronauts, it might be a one-way trip. You're committed to staying there. So I don't know. But at any rate, yeah. So there's pictures. I'm going to show it again. There it is. Yeah, that's just I thought that would excite you. Excites me. And finally, I'm just going to end with a little broadcasting note here. I don't know if you folks have been following this. Do you know what AM radio is? A lot of people don't. You know, you have an AM radio in your car because right now all cars come with AM and FM radios. No, I have to qualify that. Teslas don't because the AM radios really screw up the electronics in an electric car. So a lot of electric vehicles do not come with AM radio. They only come with FM. But AM was the original radio in the United States, started in the 1920s. It's been around for about 100 years now, and it's failing terribly. Nobody listens anymore. Basically, the fidelity's bad. So the only real thing you can put on AM radio right now, getting any attention at all, is talk radio. And there's so many places on the FM band that sound so much better. Not to mention, satellite and the interweb. And you can hook Spotify up to your car via your phone, and you don't need the radio ever. But I just thought I'd point this out here. So AM radio stations are folding for the first time ever in the last year. No one is buying the licenses. So I know this sounds weird, but this is the way this actually works. In the 1920s, the United States started offering licenses at specific frequencies for radio stations, and later they did the same thing for TV. But the licenses were given out free, but you can now turn around and sell a license that you got for free as long as you don't give it back to the government. Okay, so the licenses are worth something, even though the government gave them out for free. But for the first time ever now in the last year, people aren't even trying to to sell them; they're just closing them down. So the radio station KXSP in Omaha, the AM radio station there, which was originally WOAP, WOAW, it closed. But the reason I'm bringing this up is because Johnny Carson, the famous talk show host, he got a start in broadcasting at that radio station, and they are out of business. They closed because the company that owns the radio station sold the land underneath the tower. Or no, they were leasing it, and the company that owned the land didn't renew the lease or something like that. Anyway, they didn't even bother to try to put up a fight. They just said, we're out. And that's where broadcasting has gotten today. I mean, I don't have to tell you, nobody cares. Fox News is the second most watched television network in America. Not cable, broadcast too, over the air. Even if you count the over-the-air stations, ABC is first, and Fox News, which is on cable television, is second. And then you got NBC and CBS. Nobody's watching TV. Nobody's watching anything. No, that's not true. People watching all sorts of stuff. People on the intertube watching stuff like this. And I appreciate you watching too. I really do. I really appreciate it very much. So tomorrow night, Robert Bork Jr., his book about the antitrust paradox. All right, let me see. I'm actually gonna name. The new paradox: antitrust and the threat of conservative socialism. Yeah, that's interesting. His concept is conservative socialism. We're gonna talk to him about that. We'll have more news. And next week we're on 4 nights a week again. It's been 2 months. I want to thank you folks for putting up with it. Really appreciate it. Good night, Uncle Donnie, wherever you are. Good night to you, wherever you may be. We'll see you tomorrow night, folks. Believe it or not, we will. Take care. Sleep well.